Hello, everyone. This is Susan Damiani, Director of Gift Planning at St. John's University, also the Director of McAllen Society, which is our legacy society. And I'm so excited today. I get to introduce a fellow classmate of mine. It's been a very, very long time since we've seen each other. When we connected and talking on the phone, I think we could have talked for hours. We were catching up on so many things, and it was really, really nice. And I think that's one of the nice things or a blessing about the pandemic, that I think many people are reconnecting with some friends and classmates that they haven't seen in a long time. And this is a moment that you're witnessing here live on video, that I'm meeting up with Donovan Fraser, who is a graduate of St. John's University, 1986. Did I get that right, Donovan?
87 undergrad, 89 grad.
Oh, 87, I'm sorry.
Okay.
87 undergrad and 89
grad,
for your master's?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you had time, because he is so busy. He has like 3 jobs, and to take the time out to be with us today, we really, really appreciate it. So this is a little different, because normally I'm not involved with the Ask Alumni portion of our electronic newsletter. My graduate assistant, David Targett, handles that. But since I reached out to Donovan, I said to David, do you mind if I'm on the video? So he's like, no problem. So I'm going to turn it over to David, and he's going to ask some questions. And so you can get to know this wonderful person, Donovan Fraser, who I'm very, as you can see, very fond of, and so glad that we're talking to him today. So I'm going to turn it over to you, David.
Mutual, you know that.
Thanks, Donovan.
Yeah, so good.
It's
good
all
evening.
yours, David.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I mean, what we always do, we like to start with an introduction, just to kind of let our alumni know who you are, when you went to St. John's, and a little bit about what you do now.
I came to America as a tourist a few times. I had family over here, and I was running track, and I literally just walked onto the campus of St. John's based upon what my cousin had told me, that I'd be able to get a scholarship. Mm-hmm. And I went in to ask to speak to Coach Mahoney. They sent me to the basketball office by mistake. That was the assistant coach. I did not speak to Coach Duffy Mahoney, and because I was ranked 2nd in England, 3rd in Britain, had set a couple of good records, they offered me a full scholarship on the spot, and the rest is history. I came to New York, and I'm still here.
Wow. So, well, I'm a bit of a sports fanatic myself. What event did you run?
So I was a triple jumper, long jumper.
Awesome.
I thought I'd sprint when I got here, but in America, you probably have more, incredible sprinters in New York than all of London and England combined. So I became a jump specialist, triple jump and long jump. Mm-hmm. Did relatively well with that, and Big East champion. I guess one of my proudest memories was becoming MVP in the 1987 season, mm-hmm. before I decided to do graduate school. So
I gotta ask, what was your PR in the triple jump?
So triple jump, I always tell people I jumped 52 feet, but I looked it up. It says I jumped 51, 10 and a half. And in the long jump, I jumped over 25. So combination triple and long jump. So
and those were good enough to win the Big East title.
Yeah, Big East title twice in in back-to-back, I think 86 and 87 outdoors, when the St. John's track team, the only time we did it, the men's team, we won the Big East outdoor championship. And for the Mets, I won the Metropolitan Championships. I won the triple jump a few times, triple and long, went to Penn Relays, all that good stuff.
So you were the star athlete. Can you talk a little bit about like what you studied at St. John's?
Mathematics. So I went to St. John's College, absolutely loved mathematics. Decided I wanted to be an actuary, which is why I entered mathematics, and graduated in 3.5 years, and still had another year of eligibility for track and field. So I became a graduate assistant coach and went ahead and studied mathematics and got my master's also at St. John's University.
Awesome. And what was the master's in?
Oh, both in mathematics.
Oh, both
in applied math, yeah. So Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, 87, applied mathematics in 89, and I went on and took a few actuarial exams.
Awesome. So is that kind of where you went after you finished? You went into the actuarial work?
Yeah, I went straight into the actuarial field. Loved it. long story short, the insurance industry began to implode a little bit within the decade after going into the late 90s. And so I actually went to Standard & Poor's to be a credit analyst. So rather than being the actuary on the inside looking out, I have 5 exams, not 7, so I'm gonna be careful. I'm not technically an actuary, but I do have 5 exams instead of 7. I went to the other side to be a credit analyst to look at insurance companies and give ratings and understand, why they implode, quite honestly.
Right.
So, and I've stayed on that track ever since. I now work for Swiss Re, which is, depends on how you measure, the largest reinsurer in the world by premium volume. And I've been there for over 13 years now.
Wow, awesome. And so we were talking before the call started, and I called you up. Do you also teach?
Yes. I So, and Susan and I had a long conversation about this. My love is mathematics, right? When I was at St. John's, I was a graduate assistant jumps coach, but at the same time, I remember doing graduate assistant teaching, tutoring in the HEOP program, the Higher Education Opportunity Program. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. As Susan and I spoke about, actuarial is where the money was. So if I followed my heart, I honestly think I would have gone straight into teaching, but I went into corporate America. And just maybe within the last 7 or 8 years, I was doing a lot of, let's say, volunteer tutoring. And my wife was like, if you love it so much, why don't you work and do it? And I had 4 kids. I didn't think I could find the time, but long story short, I ended up teaching at a local college here, Suffolk County Community College. And for the past 3 years or so, I've been an adjunct associate also at Columbia University in the School for Professional Studies. And I love that also.
When you were at St. John's, you were a part of Greek life as well?
Yeah. So I've got so many funny stories, but when keep harking back to Susan, she'll remember that. So this is fair. When I went to St. University, we had the rat skiller, which sold beers, right? Because when we went to St. John's,
that's always our memory, right?
Yes, the rat skiller, 25-cent beers, and 19 was a legal age to drink until 1984, 1985. So just so you know, we were legally drinking at St. John's, and I was approached by TEEC, Tau Kappa Epsilon. I was told that Ronald Reagan was a member, the largest fraternity in the world. And I went to speak to my coach, Duffy Mahoney, and he said to me, why wouldn't you look into a black fraternity? Now, I'm from England. I'll be honest. The only thing I knew about fraternities was Animal House with Belushi and those guys. And so he said, and this is actually my mentor. I know it sounds strange, we're only a couple of years apart, but Earl Gamble was the president of Phi Beta Sigma, for the Lambda Road chapter at St. John's University. He was also a triple jumper, and our coach, Duffy Mahoney, as Irish as you can get, told me I should check out Sigma. So I looked into Phi Beta Sigma, and the rest is history. I became secretary there, president there. I was on student government, Hawaii, a whole bunch of stuff. But and I'm a life member of Phi Beta Sigma, and I'm still very active in the fraternity.
Awesome.
And one other thing, sorry. And we're very, very proud of Kamala Harris, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, an HBCU grad, and very glad of the representation or that the D9, the Divine Nine, is getting. The 9 historically black fraternities and sororities. Back to you.
That's nice. Yeah, that's great. Good shout out.
So I mean, I'm not entirely up to date with like the fraternity stuff. And I know that from my understanding that there's more white fraternities than predominantly black fraternities or historically black fraternities at St. John's. Do you know if there have been if the black fraternities are growing at St. John's University?
No, actually, because I was a graduate assistant to St. John's University, and you have Dr. Andre McKenzie, who, by the way, I don't know if you know about Dr. Andre McKenzie at St. John's.
Oh, yes, we know.
Well, he's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and just celebrated his, I don't want to age him, I think his 45th anniversary just this month, that he's very proud of. And
he still looks like a kid too.
He still looks like the kid that we interviewed, and he can tell you that story. He had to sit in front of a bunch of Hawaii and Greek life organizations. So to try and get to your question, unfortunately, there has been a material drop-off at PWIs, predominantly white institutions, when it comes to Greek life for Phi Beta Sigma, and all the other 8 major organizations. And it's something we're attempting to revive. Of course, there's a lot of anti-hazing. We're totally against hazing, so a lot of that had to be taken care of. Long story short is there's been a general decline in membership in Black fraternities and sororities across PWIs in New York, and still very vibrant in the South and many other institutions. And quite honestly, we're hoping that with the attention on the Divine Nine, it's not just Kamala Harris. There's lots of D9 members between Delta Sigma Theta, Zeta Phi Beta sorority, which is our sister sorority, and all the other organizations. And of course, we'll be talking about Black History Month, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., of course, is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who came to St. John's. I don't know if you remember, Susan, but
Yes, I do.
yeah, and the student government paid.
Yeah,
At the time, it was
they
affordable.
were good years.
They were good
we went
years.
to school.
But
We
Jesse
had some
Jackson
really
is also
interesting people. Yeah,
he's also a
yeah,
member
I
of Omega
remember.
Psi Phi
Oh, okay.
Fraternity Incorporated. So many
Awesome.
famous members of the organization.
Yeah. So you said you still stay connected. You're an active member. What does that look like from a Greek life perspective?
Okay, so I'll try and be politically correct how I say it, is that historically, it seems as though when it comes to predominantly white fraternities and sororities, they talk about how they used to be a member of TEAC, or when they were in college. Most of the work with Black fraternities and sororities actually gets done on the graduate level, as we used to call it, actually. And that's where you'll see a lot of the work we do with March of Dimes, with Hale House, formerly up in Harlem, and many of the other programs we do with Brotherhood Scholarship Service, lots of the scholarships that we give out. So most of the work that is done is by the brothers who have graduated and are actually more financially able to commit to that program. So for example, under Barack Obama, we partnered with, My Brother's Keeper and many other initiatives. And you'll see a lot of the Divine Nine, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Zeta Phi Beta, Delta Sigma Theta, Sigma Gamma Rho, the sororities. And I have to mention them all now. Alpha Phi Alpha is the first Black fraternity in 1906. You have Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Phi Beta Sigma, and Iota Phi Theta. Those are the Divine Nine.
Susan, is there anything that you wanted to hop in and ask Donovan?
Thanks, David. That was great. Donovan, thank you for sharing all the memories at St. John's. We appreciate it. I know, I've been staying connected with Donovan on Facebook, and I noticed that you're quite the farmer, and you want to share with with everyone. It's amazing what you're growing. I mean, really, have you always done this, or is it something that you were just doing for the pandemic?
This
Keep
is
yourself busy.
Purely a COVID thing, right?
Really? Wow.
I got back on March 2nd from England. By March 3rd, I actually had developed a cough. People were nervous that I had COVID, so I got a test, everything. Well, you couldn't even get a test back then.
Right.
So I stayed at home. But the long story short is that I think maybe by mid-March, my company shut down. So I'm at home. As David knows, one of the things about Dix Hills is that you do have quite a bit of land. And so I'd always said I would, do a little bit of gardening. But I never had the time, as you say. Got 3 jobs, and immigrants, we get the job done. A little Hamilton
Exactly.
reference there. But now I found myself for the first time looking at my backyard. I'm waking up. With commuting an hour and a half to 2 hours each way, you get that time back. So long story short, I was able to just start growing, and one thing led to another. I started with a 20 by 40, ended up with probably 80 by 100, and I grow everything from strawberries to Swiss chard is my favorite. I love all of my peppers. I'll get started early this year. My
You sure you're not
pepper.
Italian? You love Swiss chard?
Love Swiss chard.
It's a popular Italian vegetable.
Oh, because it's perfect, right? You can have it raw. You can actually cook it almost like it's a collard green. So I did collard greens.
I wish
also.
everyone could see the photos, because we're not talking. If you look, they're like picture perfect. You would
Yeah,
think you were farming all your life.
well, part of it grew out of laziness, right? I'm getting a little bit older, so David, you haven't seen this, but I built 3 levels of boxes. Ones that are at 3 feet high, so they're waist height.
Yeah.
Honestly, because they're easier to use. And then everywhere else, my next door neighbor, Matt, who I'll give a shout out to, he went to Cornell. I was trying if there's a St. John's connection, but he has a connection with the same college my son goes to. But he's been growing at the ground level. He told me how hard it was to weed. And so I did a lot of video research and just decided to build boxes. And I'm actually excited because I'll probably start my seeds in my little greenhouses by the end of this month, beginning of next month.
Well, now that I know where you live,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm gonna steal some.
David's my
Not
neighbor.
steal,
He
I'm
can
gonna
come
ask,
over also.
can I have some?
My mom's little garden over here will compete with yours.
Oh, there you go.
Probably
Oh,
won't.
okay. Do I hear,
Probably, I meant probably won't.
almost like a cook-off or farming off kind of thing? Well, he started a whole competition on Facebook after, Donovan started sharing all his vegetables. Then everybody else was like, look at
Oh,
my
Erin.
pumpkins. Look at, right? Erin
Yeah.
and
Well, Erin's got me beat because Erin's over in California.
Yeah,
so
well, she has
doing
the weather.
watermelons and squash
Yeah, I know.
and showing off. I love
Yeah,
it.
I love how you got everybody going.
The gym, a whole
with the
bunch of guys,
vegetable-
whole bunch of people
George, I
from the
think
80s.
George Curse
Yeah.
too. Wasn't he raising some stuff? Because he's
A
the
whole
cook.
bunch of guys.
He loves to cook. Yeah.
Mhm.
But no, it was fun because you got everyone going and it's just something fun for everybody, a fun way to connect. And
Yeah.
as you can see, I mean, you're quite the achiever because you can't even sit and relax during a pandemic. Now you're growing these great vegetables.
Yeah.
Were
Having
you
fun.
always like that? Is that just like, where does that come from? That motivation and that, always being an achiever.
As David will tell you, as I'm sure his parents will tell you, that when you're a soccer dad or a soccer mum, it literally takes up your whole life
Oh, I
and
know.
time. I've got
seen
4
people.
boys,
No.
and I've literally been to Italy, Wales, all across
Really?
this. Yeah, oh
Wow.
yeah. We my son
With the team?
with the team. Yeah, my
Oh,
son
wow.
at 10
It's
years.
hardcore.
Actually, he went to the Blackburn Rovers camp at the age of 10, and Kobe went at the age of 8
How nice.
in England, and we went to Italy. Met Totti and all these other famous players. And,
Oh, how nice.
but it's just something that takes you all over the world. I know it's all over the country. Went to the Surf Cup over in California.
Wow.
So with all of that beginning to wind down, right? And even though, I do have 3 jobs, I try not to teach at both institutions at the same time because this is true. For every hour you put in the classroom, you're going to put double that outside the classroom. So it's quite a bit. Now I've got a full-time job in the daytime, right? So it's a bit much to try and do all of that. But
That's a lot.
now that I can enjoy my backyard, I can walk out and take some Swiss chard or take some
That's
strawberries
nice.
or some peppers, some habaneros and cayenne. I love it.
But
See?
it seems like it dribbled down to your sons. You're a great role model for them because what David was saying, what we were talking about before we got on the call. Your sons seem to be great soccer players, and they all seem to be doing so well. I think it's because of you. I mean, like I said, you're the achiever, but what did you pass on to them, or what did you tell them that has encouraged them to be so successful and driven in their lives?
Well, I would say that, I should mention my wife because I'm sure she will. So, her whole family are a product of, New England schools, and she went to Wheaton and they went to Yukon Law, and her sisters are doctors and lawyers, and Harvard Law left, right, and center. So they've always drilled in the academics, right? We're always, since day one. We moved to Dix Hills, obviously, for the Half Hollow Hills School District. When it comes to the athletics, strangely enough, I wasn't a great football. I lied to the kids earlier. But I was not a great football player, or a great soccer player, I should say, over here, which is why I was a track guy, right? It's a very solitary, individualistic sport. So I just made sure I exposed them to, I know it sounds very hackneyed and people say this, but I think that team sports do build character. Well, not build, they reveal character. I think it gives you time management skills. So they played flag football, they played soccer, they played basketball, they did track. I would have preferred track because I think it's objective and there's no subjectivity. But the first two gravitated to soccer, and as David knows, my son Donnie has a few records here, All American, and then my second son Colby, he went to the national camp and did very well, and they both went off to and they played soccer in college. Doesn't look like it's going to translate into a career. Well, actually, my son Colby is coaching down in Florida, so I'm very proud of him. And then my third son Marcus, who also played, but he saw the injuries and how much dedication it was, and I've been very honest that any athletics in college is a job. It really takes up a lot of time. So he decided, that he didn't want to play in college, and he's up at Cornell and having a great time there. He's a sophomore at Cornell. Actually, I'm gonna take him back on Friday. And then the fourth one is Garin. He's a sophomore in the school district. Oh, and behind me, is the great Marcus Garvey, one of Jamaica's first national hero, one of our 7 national heroes, given that Black History Month is coming up. And my son Marcus is in part named after Marcus Garvey. And you guys can Google him if you don't know who he is.
That's great. Yeah, definitely will. It's great talking to you, Donovan.
Always a pleasure.
Well, thanks, David. You did a good job.
Thank you for joining us today, Donovan.
Yeah, thank you so much, neighbor.